us
You are.
by decree.
We're live, and the US, as Michael has decreed, is later. Yeah, now for some reason this year, was it the same last year? I don't know. The US has gone ahead 2 weeks before the UK. So we have 2 weeks of joyous confusion before, followed by another 2 weeks of ongoing confusion. There we go. Yeah, we're here. It's AV community meeting. It's Sam and Will and Michael. I had failed to trail an agenda much in advance. I had thought to talk briefly about the RubyMine JetBrains sponsorship stuff again, and developments there. Does anybody else have any items on their minds?
Michael?
Not offhand, no.
No. All right. Go on, Will.
There was something I was thinking about saying in the meeting earlier that I thought was interesting from a Agile Ventures point of view. Like you were saying about the way that why it's changed, and I was going to try and like get to the bottom of what caused that and why that might be, so it might be relevant for Agile Ventures.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Well, I'd love to hear. Yeah, love to hear more about that. I guess I can probably do my things pretty quickly, is just and get them out of the way. So I mentioned that RubyMine, they've given us a free month. Then, yeah, I mean, basically, it's going to cost money. We talked about this last week. I guess the key things that are sort of new are, one, that they've given us a 3 month. I've sent that out to all the premium members so that they can, get that extra month. There seems like the odd thing is there seems to be a community, like Brent has pointed out, that there's a community edition which we can use for free anyway. I also started using VS Code today, which is available for free, and while not quite as slick as RubyMine in some places, it's actually lighter, and it's kind of like a nice intermediate between Sublime and RubyMine. And I was posting, Michael, if you saw in TED Talk, like there are some plugins to do a lot of the things that we like about RubyMine.
So VS Code works on Mac too?
Yeah, it sure does.
Huh.
And I have, so for example here, not there. Let's go. I mean, it's also, I also was listening to a podcast all about, it's also completely open source. And like very community driven now, allegedly. What's happening there? Why can't I type into that window? Or is it done one of those?
So have they approached Agile Ventures?
You say Visual Studio Code?
No, sorry, JetBrains. Have they approached you or?
Yeah, well, no. See, they've been sponsoring us for the last like 4 or 5 years, and giving us free, stuff. Yeah. And great, and then basically it would come up for, they have a yearly renewal of the license, and they said this year the rules have changed. It's no longer free. We can give you a discount, but yeah.
Oh, okay, but I'm just saying that anybody can get a free 30-day trial. I just wondered if you were aware of that. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
No. I mean, anybody can get a free 30-day trial. We've had a free 5 years, and what they've said to us is, we can give you another month free while you work out all of your internal issues.
Okay.
And the deal. And so I've said, right, okay, so what's actually the basic cost? And they've come back to me saying, okay, well, how many people do you want licenses for, and which product package, and so on. So I need to kind of like negotiate with them. I'm just wondering, might it be simpler to just recommend to people to go with either the community edition of JetBrains or the VS Code?
Okay. I'm trying to find the community edition.
Yeah, so I think it's, I mean, Brent pointed, well, I believe if we scroll up in the Slack history in the AV community channel, did Brent just mention it, or did he link to it? Yeah, no, actually, Brent has linked to it here. Here are the links.
Oh, okay. And so it's on their website even. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So
it's just the IntelliJ AI though. It's not
right, but then so Brent points out that if you add these plugins, you get the Ruby functionality. I mean, I don't know if this gives us as much of the RubyMine experience that we want. Although I think, as we've acknowledged, there's not so much of the RubyMine experience that we particularly care for.
Yeah, I'd say if the community edition doesn't impress you, then surely it's not worth paying for anything.
Well,
more.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't tried out that community edition. I mean,
okay.
I'm using the community edition of VS Code, and that's reasonably impressive. The you know, I've been able to, if we go into some code here, like into a controller, application controller, I don't know, that's not sort of an example. But yeah, I mean it's the thing for us is that we've got. No, that's not going to be a good jump, is it? But you can do. Oh, I don't know. Let's see if we can do it from here. Open file in remote. Okay. Yeah, it's not doing quite the one. Anyway, forget that. More the issue for us is that our premium package for the last couple of years, one of the things it's included is like free RubyMine license. So I mean, whether people should be using RubyMine or not is another matter. It's like if we are now in the situation of, do we like remove the RubyMine thing from the license and say, hey everybody, we recommend you use VS Code or what have you? Does that undermine our premium? You know, the number of people will a number of people drop premium as a result of that change? Will we have fewer people signing up, or maybe people didn't really even care that much in the first place?
I have I'm just interested to know, when you're using RubyMine, does it make you structure your project in a particular way, or like does your project become dependent on RubyMine?
No, not particularly.
Okay, that's good. Because I haven't had a very good experience with development frameworks.
Yeah, go on.
But that's not the. I know that's not the same thing as an IDE. Or is it?
No. Well, no, it's not. I mean, you know, Rails requires us to structure as a framework, requires us to structure the project in a particular way. RubyMine doesn't really care about the framework. I mean, the particular thing that RubyMine gives us that I like is the ability to jump to, you know, code definitions, like particularly in Cucumber features, which is something that I got partially working in Visual Studio Code earlier today, but not as good as RubyMine. So when we're dealing with our you know, feature files like this for our project, is so now is it 12? There we go. It's not quite working. See, it's trying to jump to the appropriate step definition, and it works sometimes and it doesn't others. Here. Yeah, so on this occasion there, it's jumped and it's taken me to precisely the step definition that we run by this. And that's, to be honest, you know, the main thing that RubyMine, and RubyMine has all these other features like managing databases and doing your testing thing within RubyMine and what have you. And I personally don't use any of that stuff. There's just a few things that like help with navigation around the code that I quite like for the RubyMine. You know, go on, Michael. You've suddenly gone very faint, Michael.
I said I'm mostly the same in that it's jumping to the step definitions. That's the major thing with RubyMine. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I sure do. And yeah, I hear. I agree. I mean, I think the other thing is, and then apart from the features, they've got this. I mean, I was just trying to show an example of it before. In the, like, out of the box, like I had to set that up and it's still not quite working. Out of the box in, gosh, what's the even word for it? Out of the box in VS Code, you can do this. That's funny. It was working before. You could do like an open definition of a particular thing, but now doesn't seem to be quite working. What's going on there? Go into a service over. Can't even find any. What RubyMine certainly does do is you can even like it will drop down and show like if you do like show me the definition of this method and it's part of the Rails framework, it will jump down, it will open that particular file in the Rails framework and show you that code. So you can kind of like dive down really easily and clear. Not that I haven't found ways to do all this, just Sublime and everything. Anyway, sorry. I meant that to be sort of quick, but that was that. I guess the only other thing that I will add there is that my Noteboats, so the French thing and other contracts. So I've actually now, my whole blog on Friday was about money coming through for contracts or whatever. I've now had a contract come through for doing more work on this kind of natural language processing, machine learning sort of translation electron system, which is a closed source thing, annoyingly. That money's come through, so a chunk of my time is going to be taken up with that. The My Noteboat thing, the client has agreed to the payment framework. This is for the French. We've got a this is open source using React Native that we did a design sprint on the other week. They're talking about making the deposit payment on that by this Friday. So if they do, there will suddenly be lots of paid work for premium members, but we will see. Again, my experience has taught me that people can talk all they want. It's when they actually make transfer of money into your bank account that's the kind of key difference. But talking of contracts and smart contracts, Will, what were you? Yeah, I've got like 10 minutes before I've got to go, unfortunately. I guess the other thing is about this organization of these meetings. There was supposed to be what happened to the new member meetings and doing the AV Community Award and so on. I guess we'll talk about that in the marketing meeting on Wednesday. But Will, tell us about why evolution.
Okay. So the reason that I think things have moved on for Y is because I've been working with somebody else.
Right.
And it's when you have to say things out loud that you've been thinking, or ideas that you've held like quite like precious to yourself, and when you're forced to say them out loud and you realize that they're like they don't sound right, that cuts a lot of time down for the project.
Ooh.
So that's what in terms of like Agile Ventures selling the benefits of joining, I'd say that's something that like somebody who's worked on something alone can recognize. Like you're working alone, you've got lots of ideas for a project, and you might be stuck with it, and it's only really when you get to talk to somebody else about it in a detailed conversation where you're actually working, where you're actually solving a problem together, that you realize that you've been thinking about something incorrectly. Yeah, and there was another really important point when I think I talked to a lot of people about my project, and we'd always got to the point of like, yeah, okay, that sounds interesting. I'll see you when I've learned about Solidity or something. But what I did with Lasso was I said, okay, I'll tell you about the thing that I'm going to do next. And it was specific. It was like a problem that I wasn't really expecting him to solve right then. But I did. That was the key thing, because I told him about that, and then he actually thought about it in the call, and then and from there he started to get really, and he solved it,
right.
And then we got into doing it. So I'd say to like people who are starting this with the project, at the end of the conversation, tell somebody what you're doing, what the actual practical thing you're doing next is,
right?
So that at least they can go away and think about it. And come back to you. or they can start contributing to the project right away.
Right.
Rather than just saying, yeah, that sounds really good, and then not having anything of substance to come back to.
Right. It's excellent. I'm trying to take good notes on what you're saying.
So yeah, I guess the reason I'm saying these things is because I don't think that I'd appreciated those two things before.
Right. Before
now. I don't know whether you'd said them to me. I don't know. Maybe you had. I don't know.
Well, back then Sam had his beard, so
you might not have believed anything I was saying when I had the beard. The interesting thing. Well, I'll come back to that. Whether we talked about that before. The interesting thing here is what you were saying was you talked to lots of people about your project, presumably inside Agile Ventures and out. And in general terms about what it would do and so on this. And it would often be that it would say, and people would say, oh, that's really interesting. And you would say something like, well, I'm going to work on this next thing. I'll come back to you once I've fixed this thing that I'm going to work on. And people are like, oh, no.
Well, because sometimes, yeah, but sometimes also people will just say, okay, cool. I'm gonna go away and learn about how to do this. And then I've not given them any insight into the problem, the active problems.
So what you're saying is it's not so much the person who's saying, well, I'll talk to you later once I've dealt with, say that's what a potential contributor was saying.
Yeah.
And so they were then going to go and learn about stuff, and they would go off and learn stuff, and then maybe they might not come back, or when they come back, they'd say, well, I didn't really learn very much, or it wouldn't really go anywhere specific.
Yeah, right. And if their motivation to learn Solidity is to help with, well, I guess it isn't. But if it is, then learn it by helping me solve a problem that's active at the moment.
Right.
And I'll teach you, because like, that's the best way to learn within some kind of context of a real project, isn't it?
That is, yeah. I mean, that's kind of like the key point of Agile Ventures is, like, it's supposed to be this departure from traditional like learning. A lot of the people that I interact with, I for whatever, and it's not that you shouldn't study things, they often seem to want to say, yeah, I can't really look at that or work on that until I've got all of this other background knowledge.
Right.
And to a certain extent, that's sort of true. Sometimes you're so far out of your depth that it's like, how could I possibly ever even contribute something? And people do. I think like we recently in the React mobs. I mean, recently, a few months ago, we went through a lot of the React things from Stephen Greider, and I think I picked up a lot of concepts about React from that were then extremely helpful in me, like, actually delivering, like, for example, the React app that we did for the My Notebook, kind of hackathon/design sprint. But there's a kind of, it's a bit like the way the way I used to revise for exams when I was doing perhaps my GCSEs or early stages in the A levels is, and I think a lot of maybe British school children still do this, is the revision process is you've got these notes that you've written from your teacher, and you kind of reread them, and then you maybe rewrite them out in a smaller form,
and then you highlight them
and you have folders full of different dividers. I mean, that's the revision process. What you very specifically often kind of avoid doing is actually answering the previous paper, like getting example papers. And it's far less emotional effort to just kind of look at some stuff and read it than it is to actively challenge yourself to try and solve a problem. But ironically, it's the practice of actively challenging yourself to solve a problem that leads to the greatest learning on your part. But it is quite emotionally painful, I think, for most people to press themselves to try and solve a problem.
There's definitely I don't know if this is the same thing. There's definitely, sometimes you want to do something at your own pace.
Sure.
But that isn't the same thing as not solving the problem, sort of solving an active problem. Because sometimes you don't someone will try and explain something to you, and you'll think to yourself, okay, I don't really understand what they're talking about, but I'll go away and like learn this at my own pace.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah, so I guess it does depend on how good the person doing the project is at explaining what's going on. Maybe that's all it is. That's all that is.
I think it's going to be a combination. So there's a. I mean, that's another great point, that it's like, so. I think it very much depends. Like, there is like, you've got challenges. Like, if I put this in here, as like challenges here are, can the project leader, let's say, articulate the issues they are facing? And then there's another question of, are the people who are potentially contributing, I guess, at the right stage emotionally and intellectually,
to
contribute? So we've got a lot of different people in the Agile Ventures community, and when I say, you know, intellectually ready, I just mean, it's not like
no
smart or whatever. It's just like, you know, have you got the enough experience in the right subset of areas that you feel emotionally safe by kind of trying to tackle a problem that, you know, someone has presented?
Yeah, and it's also, yeah.
Go on. No, go on.
Well, it's also that, I don't know if it's just about how much you know. It's like, I know that the best way to understand something is to try and, I would try and get an idea of the active problems, because I don't want to. I know then that I'm not wasting my time learning things that aren't going to be relevant, because I'm doing it directly. And it's whether you're used to doing that way, and know that,
right,
rather than going away, like, rather than wanting to read tutorials or take courses.
Right. And I would say that I mean, I think you're absolutely right. In my mind, to say that you're emotionally and intellectually ready to contribute, that's part of that.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's emotionally ready. It's like, one, that you've got the kind of fortitude to deal with some of the uncomfortable process of like forcing yourself up against the active problems.
Yeah.
But then also intellectually, that you know that's potentially one of the best ways to learn.
Yeah.
But it's at the same time, I think it's very much the case that for some people to be like, you know, forced by others, or even to force themselves up against a particular kind of problem at the wrong time in their life's journey, you know, it's not necessarily the best thing to do. And I've certainly seen people who've bitten off more than they can chew, and that's been, you know, it wasn't the right.
Yeah.
So I think,
so it's both sides, isn't it? It's,
yeah.
I think, yeah, like I'm quite keen to jump in and try and solve something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it.
And I guess, and maybe, well, the interesting thing would be to talk to Lasse, who was the person,
yeah,
you know, who, and to hear what his perspective was. But the difference for me was that I actually talked about something that was active on, and that wasn't, I don't think that he prompted me to do that.
No.
So this is just something like as a that's useful advice for a project lead.
Yes.
To tack that on, because they might be talking to somebody who is thinking about doing that, but didn't, you know,
oh, absolutely.
That's like, it's an unknown until you, I think it's always worth mentioning it if there's some kind of level of interest in the project.
Yes. Well, and it's very interesting you're saying that in the context of, we just had a Website One meeting where we had 2 new people and 1 person who'd come back after a while. And oh gosh, I mean, I have, you know, I was like, one of the person actually asked me, you know, what was my vision for Website One, and, you know, of course I probably talk too much as usual, but I have, you know, I'm really not sure if I was effectively articulating things in a way that would really empower these people to kind of come in and, you know, kind of like engage in the project in a way that would be valuable and exciting and fun for them. you know, I mean, partly because, and that's also because, you know, I'm doing this kind of juggling thing of like guessing what stage they are at emotionally, intellectually, and so on. But that in some ways actually it connects with what I articulated in that meeting of what my vision, what I'd love to see is I'd love to see us get to the point where, I mean, things like what you've just articulated there, that is wonderful advice for actually people on both sides of the equation, people who are starting projects and trying to get them off the ground, people who are coming to them. And I would love to see, you know, our site and our environment and our Slack kind of scaffold people in a pleasant and gentle way through that process so that they could kind of be reading articles about these ideas, or, you know, do you know what I mean? Like in the, that was particularly, you know, in the previous meeting, I was like highlighting the Odin project and the way that they sort of encourage the operation through, you know, a sequence of things, and they've got the series of different courses, and you've got step by step through it, and you can, if you're logged in, you can sort of tick them off and so on. And if we had like sort of a nice sequenced flow that would kind of do that for all of these things that we're learning about and we know about, you know, what unleashes fantastic learning in Agile Ventures and in collaborative online projects. You know, I'd love to see more people getting the benefit and the excitement and so on from, you know, Agile Ventures, because we're able to sort of scaffold them through that potentially, you know, it's I think it's not obvious what the right thing is, as evidenced by yourself. You've kind of had this understanding by connecting with somebody within Agile Ventures.
Yeah, I mean, I guess most project leads will be keeping an eye on the new members channel.
Yeah, I guess to varying extents. Yes, I mean I think different project leads will have different levels of awareness of all the different parts of Agile Ventures, because I don't know how good a job we are doing articulating to all the different project leads what's available there. But yes, but do go on.
Well, yeah, because that, I guess maybe it's not something that maybe everyone's doing. It's something that I thought to do as a project, because I thought, okay, well, people talk about what they're interested in when they join. So
yeah. I do to an extent, and I know Federico is definitely sort of there, and yeah. So it certainly happens to an extent. Yes.
Yeah, but I think that's maybe, I don't know if that's been like if that's formalized for project leads as well, because that you know, if there's a checklist for project leads, then I think that should be on there, because that's the best way to meet people who are going to come and they're going to have the motivation to want to start working on something too.
Yeah, but, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, because that's how I met Lasse, because he was interested in he's interested in Ethereum, and then it's just at the end of the conversation I tag on something specific about my project.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And then so we have not only a checklist, but we've got, like, you know, I mean, we've got our repo of sort of curriculum about how to do things in Agile Ventures, like starting a new project and all the other bits and pieces. Yeah, and what I would love to see is a framework like the Odin project have, where the Odin project, I think, have so successfully, they have separated their curriculum into a different repo that people who just want to work on the content can work on. And then that content, now, and we have our own one here with these different bits and pieces, but like these things could be cached into our site and then be presented as part of, you know, the getting started flow or what have you in, you know, Agile Ventures to, like, well, it's lovely to hear that you've had that connection and the insight there. I hope we can sort of capture that and build on that. And yeah, I mean, what excites me about Agile Ventures, I mean, there are people like you know, who were involved in projects like Brian, and there's American Brian, and who else is it? And I think Pat and so on. And I think what we've got is, when you really get involved in this kind of collaborative, you know, flow, there's something that happens in Agile Ventures that doesn't happen elsewhere in quite the same way. But so far, I think we're not, you know, and I'm failing 98% mine at the moment. We haven't managed to kind of articulate that and sort of bundle and packaging it so that more people can realize that that's what they can get out of it if they get involved. And that's the real challenge, I think, going forward. Is how we can project that.
I mean, and that's why I was mentioning it, because I think those are. Just excuse me for 1 second. Hang on. Sorry. That's why I was mentioning it, because I don't know that these are things that I appreciated before. They're things that happened, and I thought, oh wow, that was a really like important thing here. And it's all due to Agile Ventures. Like, there's no way I would have met Lasse through, that's what Agile Ventures is good for, isn't it? It's for meeting other people, and then you get all these cool things like saying stupid ideas out loud and realizing that they're stupid.
Right. And then there's time to have more ideas and more. And you can bounce them backwards and forwards on different people, and then it's yes, absolutely. And I think it's. I mean, in some ways, I would argue that it's probably almost impossible for people to we can't magically take the knowledge in my head and your head and sort of just project and shoot that out into other people's. There's an extent to which, kind of, people need to have the experience, but once enough people can have the experience and start articulating it to others. So I think you having had these experiences is fantastic. That makes you someone who's potentially able to, I explain things in my way, you explain things in a different way, between us, and then, also Michael explains this his way. That there's almost like you can't package it up. We just need a way to keep on having people bump into each other and then explain. So go on, Michael.
If we could just copy each other's neural network weights, then everything would be.
That would be the simple, way out of it. Ironically,
W1, W2.
Yeah, ironically, difficult to do. It's. I think we can definitely improve, our comms. But yeah, I mean, I think. Will, I mean, you think for you doing things like the Premium Mob and the Y project and so on. I mean, I think what I need to get better at doing is, rather than me trying to talk all the time, is get better at supporting people like yourself and, make Agile Ventures into this platform where we really empower everybody who's doing their projects. And we're going to have an annual general meeting. I think we need to have it before June. And it'd be lovely if you could come and speak about why, and your thoughts on Agile Ventures would be fantastic.
Yeah. So one thought I just had is that so the reason I joined Agile Ventures was for the benefit of my project, primarily. So the things that are most valuable about Agile Ventures are therefore the things that are most valuable to my project.
Sounds perfectly reasonable.
I don't know if I can complete that thought, but so from a project lead's perspective, or from my perspective,
yes,
those are to concentrate on those things about Agile Ventures would be the best, because because the project is the primary reason that I'm involved in Agile Ventures. Yeah. I don't know if that's really an obvious thing to say, but I just hope it could help to give scope to how Agile Ventures could be improved.
Yeah, well, I think what it highlights is the need for kind of a project leader starter pathway.
Yeah.
At the moment we have just getting started that says getting started and get involved in projects. I mean, we need a pathway and yeah, absolutely. And I think to the extent that we can make it clear to people with projects how Agile Ventures can help them, like the way you described, and I'll repeatedly articulate that and so on. Yes.
Yeah, yes. But it's not just about having a pathway. What's important about the pathway is that it tells you the reasons behind the things that you're telling them to do.
Right.
So that you understand why it's important to do X in terms of things that you care about in terms of the project.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe what I'm gonna do is read what we've got so far and make some notes if I think that it could be improved.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Also, if you're so inspired, maybe you would blog about your thoughts on it, and we could get that published in the Medium Agile Ventures blog and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, I'll see if I can turn those notes into that.
Yeah, absolutely, wonderful. Well, I think I will have to go. You guys could carry on chatting now. Shall I leave the Hangout running, or will you?
I don't know. Michael and I we were talking about a hack before, but I think we talked about that now. So
yeah, well, I don't know, Michael. You might have longer ongoing thoughts on this topic for Will that I maybe can't stay around to hear right now.
No, I'm good.
Yeah. All right. Great stuff. Well, lovely to see you both. Hope to see you again very soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.